A $2,300 iPhone. It could happen after Donald Trump's decision to hit China with steep tariffs. That's according to calculations by analysts.
There really is nowhere to escape. Effectively 100% of Apple's products sold in the U.S. will be tariffed at a pretty exorbitant rate right now.
So we'll see how China reacts to this. China accounts for 20% of sales for Apple, so the local population, let's see if they're going to go with local brands. I mean, it's just a big mess for Apple, frankly, at this point.
Hey guys, Breezy CPA here, your certified AI public accountant. Before we get into the video, make sure to hit the like button. Do it now. You know you're going to like the video. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe. If you're interested in learning more about accounting, taxes, or becoming a CPA, make sure to visit us at breezycpa.com to check out our library of courses. For a limited time, use promo code BREEZY20 to get 20% off your order. Link in the description box below. Now on to our video. So taking a look at Apple's 10K here, we have an annual report that is pursuant to Section 13 or 15D of the Securities and Exchange Act of 1934, and this applies to companies that have over 10 million in assets and 500 shareholders and trade public securities. They have to file a 10K every year as well as a 10Q, but a 10K is the only one that needs to be audited. So this is what we're going to be looking at here. So we can see here that this is Apple's 10K for the fiscal year ended September 28th, 2024. And it's important to remember that corporations can choose different fiscal year ends other than December 31st. So a fiscal year end is any 12-month period that a business uses for accounting and tax purposes. It doesn't have to be an exact calendar year. So many businesses can select a different fiscal year that aligns with their operating cycle. So September makes sense for Apple, so this is the fiscal year that they use. We can see here that Apple was incorporated in California, and its principal address for its executive offices is 1 Apple Parkway in Cupertino, California, and its trading symbol on the NASDAQ stock market is AAPL. So if we take a look at how Apple has performed since the release of their 10K report here, we can see that over the course of the year, they are still up from 172. Now it's currently at 188. They're still up 11.59% over the course of the year. But if we look here at September, when they released their 10K, we can see that since then it was at 231 and now it's at 188. So they're in a world of hurt right now. We're going to take a closer look at these numbers and their 10K to see what they were anticipating would happen versus what is actually happening. So let's take a look at Apple's 10K here and see what they had to say to their investors and potential investors in this 10K. So we're going to start with the table of contents, and the 10K is broken up into 4 different parts. We can see part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. Part 1 discusses the business, risk factors associated with investing in Apple, cybersecurity, legal proceedings. Part 2 is management's discussion and analysis of operations, their financial statement and supplementary data, their controls and procedures. Part 3 is their list of directors, executive officers, and corporate governance, the executive compensation, and Part 4 is exhibits and financial statement schedules, and the Form 10K summary. So we're going to go through each one of these individually and see what Apple had to say, as well as to get a better understanding of the company. So let's start by taking a look here at page 1, part 1, and we can see here that Apple says that this is an annual report on Form 10K, and this contains forward-looking statements. So what does this mean when Apple says forward-looking statements? Forward-looking statements provide current expectations of future events based on certain assumptions. So forward-looking statements can be worded such as future, anticipates, believes, estimates, intends, plans, predicts. Forward-looking statements are not guarantees of future performance and the company's actual results. So what Apple is saying here is that these forward-looking statements refer to projections, expectations, or beliefs about what the future events of the company may be, but they are not a certainty. So they are providing this disclosure right off the bat on the first page, right at the top. They're saying we are making certain assumptions with these forward-looking statements that may not actually come true. So starting out with part one, item one here, we have a description of the business. So the company background, the company designs, manufactures, and markets smartphones, personal computers, tablets, wearables, and accessories, and sells a variety of related services. So some of the products that Apple has, we are very familiar with: the iPhone, the Mac, the iPad. They have wearables such as the Apple Watch and the AirPods. They also include services like Apple TV. So scrolling down here, we have services. They have advertising services, which include third-party licensing agreements. They have Apple Care. They have digital content with the App Store and Apple Music. And they also have payment services with the Apple Card and Apple Pay. Next, Apple discusses its segments in which it operates. So the company manages its business primarily on a geographic basis. So the company's reportable segments consist of the Americas, Europe, Greater China, Japan, and the rest of Asia Pacific. Next, they talk about the markets and the distribution. So the company sells its products primarily to small-sized businesses, education enterprises, government markets, and mostly through its retail and online stores. Next, it discusses the competition. So the markets for the company's products and services is highly competitive and characterized by aggressive price competition. And this is a little funny line I thought here. Many of the company's competitors seek to compete primarily through aggressive pricing and very low cost structures by imitating the company's products and infringing on its intellectual property. So there's Apple whining a little bit in their own 10K. Next, Apple discusses its supply of components. So although most of the components essential to the company's business are generally available from multiple sources, certain components are currently obtained only from a single or a limited source. So the company says that the company often utilizes custom components that are only available from one source. And this means that there can be no guarantee that the company will be able to extend or renew its agreements for these components. And we know that these components generally come from China. So Reuters reporting here that a $2,300 Apple iPhone is possible under the new tariffs.
$300 iPhone. It could happen after Donald Trump's decision to hit China with steep tariffs. That's according to calculations by analysts. The US president has hit Beijing with a cumulative new levy of 54%. And that's a problem for Apple, which makes nearly all of its phones in China. The cheapest model of its current iPhone 16 was launched with a sticker price of $799 in the US. But calculations by Rosenblatt Securities show that could rise to $1,142 after the tariffs kick in. A high-end iPhone 16 Pro Max currently sells for up to $1,599. That could rise to almost $2,300. Little wonder then that Apple shares closed down over 9% on Thursday, enduring their worst day in 5 years. Now the tariffs leave the tech giant with a difficult choice: pass on the higher costs and hope consumers don't mind, or swallow the tariffs and take a big hit to profits. The firm didn't immediately respond to a request for comment on its thinking.
So as we can see here, this tariff situation with Trump can have a significant impact on Apple's bottom line.
But Rosenblatt estimates the tariffs could end up costing it some $40 billion.
Potentially $40 billion. So let's take a look here, the research and development for the company. So Apple continues to develop new technologies to enhance existing products and services and to expand the range of its offerings through research and development. As far as Apple's intellectual property, the company currently holds a broad collection of intellectual property rights resulting from certain aspects of its hardware, accessories, software, and services. Scrolling down here, we have the business seasonality and product introductions. So the company has historically experienced higher net sales in the first quarter compared to other quarters of its fiscal year, due in part to the seasonal holiday demand. Next, Apple talks about their human capital. So here they say that people play an important role in the success of the company, and they strive to attract, develop, and retain the best talent. And as of September 28, 2024, they have 164,000 full-time equivalent employees. And for those employees, they want to provide the best compensation to enable the employees to share in the company's success. And a company invests in resources to help people develop and achieve their career goals, and so on and so forth, everything that they do for their employees. Next, we have some additional information here. So here Apple says that their 10K is filed pursuant to sections 13A and 15D of the Securities and Exchange Act of 1934, and that they are filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, on a yearly basis, and that these reports are free of charge if you go to apple.com. So one of the few things that you can get for free from Apple, if you go to their investor relation page, their SEC filings, you can take a look at the annual reports here. You can see that this report that we're looking at here was released on November 1st, 2024, and you can take a look at their quarterly filings as well. So you can go to apple.com and get these reports for yourself. If you're thinking of investing, or if you're currently an investor, you should take a look at this 10K just to understand what you're investing in. So taking a look now at some of the risk factors that are listed by Apple. So in this section, Apple lists out all of the potential economic and financial risks related to investing in their stock. So here they say the company's business, reputation, results of operation, financial condition, and stock price can be affected by a number of factors, whether currently known or unknown, including those described below. So here they list out the macroeconomic and industry risks, and they say that the company's operations and performance depend significantly on the global and regional economic conditions, and adverse economic conditions can materially adversely affect the company's business. So here they say that adverse macroeconomic conditions, including slow growth or recession, high unemployment, inflation, interest rates, so on and so forth, can affect their business. Next, we have the company's business can be impacted by political events, as we are seeing now. Trade and other international disputes, geopolitical tensions, conflicts, terrorism, natural disaster, public health issues, industrial accidents, and other business interpretations. So we can see here that the company's manufacturing is performed in whole or in part by outsourcing partners located primarily in China mainland, India, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Vietnam. Restrictions on international trade, such as tariffs and other controls on imports or exports of goods, technology, or data, can materially adversely affect the company's business and supply chain. So this report came out before before Trump initiated the tariffs. This is Apple mitigating that risk, acknowledging that they foresee potential tariffs in the future, and that you should be aware as an investor that this could adversely affect the stock price. Apple goes on to say that restrictive measures can increase the cost of a company's products and the components and raw materials that go into them. So, for example, tensions between governments, including the US and China, have in the past led to tariffs and other restrictions affecting the company's business. Remember that this 10K report was released before Trump even got into office. So they foresaw that something was potentially going to happen. If disputes and conflicts further escalate in the future, actions by governments in response could be significantly more severe and restrictive, and could materially adversely affect the company's business. So here's what CNBC had to say about the potential impact of these tariffs.
When you look at the incremental reciprocal tariff coming from China or applied to Chinese exports, when you look at the reciprocal tariff to markets like India or Vietnam or Thailand, where Apple has diversified their supply chain to, there really is nowhere to escape. Effectively 100% of Apple's products sold in the U.S. will be tariffed at a pretty exorbitant rate right now. So that was not my base case. I'm not sure that was my bear case either, but here we are. So we're seeing the stock react in real time to it.
So you heard it there. There's going to be some significant impacts as a result of the tariffs on Apple's stock price, which we've already seen. So of course, Apple's not just going to take these tariffs laying down. They're going to try and find a loophole, a way around these tariffs. So I found this article here from India Today that says Apple flies iPhones from India and China to dodge Trump's tariffs. So apparently Apple is closely studying how different tariff rules in various countries could impact its supply chain, and the US remains one of Apple's key markets, and the company is trying to avoid passing on those higher costs to customers by flying their iPhones from India and China in order to dodge the tariffs. So we'll see how that works out for them. Moving on here, we have global market risks. So again, Apple is telling its investors and potential investors, they're giving them this information because they want to protect themselves from legal issues. I mean, they want to tell you up front, look, these are the potential risks in investing with our company. So global markets, so that's a potential risk. The company's products and services are highly competitive and subject to rapid technological change. So that's a risk. Here we have the business risk section. Taking a look at some of these business risks, the company depends on component and product manufacturing and logistical services. So maybe they don't obtain the components or they don't obtain sufficient components. That's a risk for them. Design and manufacturing defects in the products that they produce, write-downs of the value of inventory, that's a risk. Third-party intellectual property, so it's not even their property, so something can change with that and affect their stock price. Third-party software developers that they depend on, failure to obtain or create digital content that appeals to companies' customers. So this is a risk, right? They don't create something that you like. So that could materially adversely impact the company's business, right? Continuing on with our risk section here, there's a risk of investing in new business strategies and acquisitions, which could potentially not work out. The company has retail stores that are subject to numerous risks and uncertainties. Continuing on, here we have legal and regulatory compliance risks, and these are where there's potentially unfavorable results of legal proceedings, so they're sued and they lose. The company is subject to complex and changing laws and regulations worldwide, which they need to adapt to. The company has risks associated with environmental, social, and governance considerations, like greenhouse gas emissions and global warming considerations. They also have risks associated with intense media, political, and regulatory scrutiny, which exposes the company to increasing regulations. So that's a risk for Apple there. The company also has risks associated with the US and international laws, rules, and policies that might change. Next, we're taking a look here at the financial risk section, and the company expects its quarterly net sales and results of operations to fluctuate. So Apple's telling you that their results are going to be fluctuating. The company's performance is subject to risks associated with changes in the value of the US dollar, in changes in the value of its investment portfolio, credit risk on its trade accounts receivable, changes in the potential tax rates, which could affect Apple. Next, we have the general risk section. Here, Apple is straight up telling you that the price of the company's stock is subject to volatility, so invest at your own risk. Next, we have the cybersecurity risk section here. And here we have a list of their properties. So they have their headquarters in Cupertino, California. Here they have a list of their current legal proceedings. So moving on to part 2, we have some information on the company's stock. And again, it is traded under the symbol AAPL, and it is currently tanking as I am recording this video. So we can see here that they list out some information as far as the average stock price per share for different periods throughout 2024, and it was averaging from September 1st to September 28th, $222. So if we look here at September, we can see that it was right around 228, 225, 227. And right now it is down to 180, currently dropping. So this is going to look very different on Apple's 10K for 2025 if this keeps up. Next, we have the company stock performance, and Apple shows you a graph here of Apple compared to the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. So they outperformed both since 2019, it looks like here. Next, we have the management discussion and analysis section, where they're talking about the first quarter, the MacBook, third quarter was the iPad Air. Yep. segment reporting and performance. Here, they're going to be talking about the different segments that they have. So the Americas, Europe, Greater China, Japan, and the rest of Asia Pacific. And they're reporting the change on each of these individual segments. So we can see here that Americas from 2023 to 2024, it increased by 3%, Europe by 7%, China went down by 8%. So this is looking at the different segments that Apple operates in. Next, we have the products and service performance section, and here Apple talks about some of their big sellers as product-wise, like the iPhone, the Mac, the iPad. So we can see that the iPhone is king here, and this is in millions of dollars, so they sold $200 billion worth of iPhones for 2024. So they talk about those different products. Here they talk about the gross margin that they had for the products versus the services that they offer. So we can see that the products had a gross margin of 37%, services 73%, and that's because they have to pay for all the components for the products as opposed to the services, which are digital, and they have a better gross margin on that. So operating expenses here for the year. Next, we have the provision for income taxes, and here Apple says that their effective tax rate for 2024 was higher than the statutory federal income tax rate, due primarily to a one-time income tax charge of $10.2 billion related to a state aid decision. So this is in relation to Apple's illegal tax benefits that they received from Ireland over the course of 2 decades, and the EU courts ruled that Apple must pay back 13 billion euros in back taxes. So here they are allocating 10.2 billion, which is actually going to be more than they're saying here in the 10K. But they are acknowledging that they have these back taxes that are owed, and that a big chunk of money is going to be going towards that. Continuing on here, we have some recent accounting pronouncements. We also have some qualitative and quantitative disclosures about market risk and interest rate risk, and we arrive at the financial statements and supplementary data section, where we have our financial statements. So here we're going to have our income statement, or the statement of operations for the year, the statement of comprehensive income, the balance sheet, the statement of stockholders' equity, statement of cash flows, and the notes to the consolidated financial statements. So these financial statements that we're going to be looking at are really the meat of the 10K. Before this, we just had company information and general disclosures. Now we're going to be taking a look at the actual financial statements. So here we have the consolidated statement of operations, or the income statement, and here the Apple shows a net income of the year of $93 billion. If we scroll down, we can see the consolidated statement of comprehensive income. This can be combined with the income statement, or it can be presented separately. And here we start off the statement of comprehensive income with the net income from the year, which was $93 billion. Then we add in the other comprehensive income, and we get our total comprehensive income for the year of $98 billion. Next, we have our consolidated balance sheet. And looking here at the consolidated balance sheet, we have our assets, current assets, non-current assets, and we have our liability and stockholders' equity, current liabilities, non-current liabilities. Remember that your assets need to equal your liabilities and stockholders' equity. So here our total assets are 364, and our total liability and stockholders' equity, 364. So those check out. Continuing on, we have the consolidated statement of stockholders' equity with the total shareholder equity for the year. Next, we have the consolidated statement of cash flows from operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities, as well as the cash paid for taxes for the year. And we arrive at the notes to the consolidated financial statements. In the notes to the financial statements, we have the summary of significant accounting policies, which presents the basis of presentation and preparation of the financial statements for the period. Continuing on with our 10K, we have the report of the independent registered public accounting firm, and this is Ernst & Young, and they are reporting to the shareholders and the board of directors of Apple Inc. And here they're expressing an opinion on the internal controls over financial reporting, as well as the consolidated financial statements. So they say, we have audited Apple Inc.'s internal control over financial reporting. In our opinion, Apple maintained in all material respects effective internal control over financial reporting. We have also audited, in accordance with the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, the consolidated consolidated balance sheet and other financial statements, and we express an unqualified opinion thereon. Now, the basis for the opinion is based on management's effectiveness of internal control over financial reporting. And Ernst & Young says we are only obtaining reasonable assurance as to the opinion that we give. We believe that our audit provides a reasonable basis for our opinion. Here, Ernst & Young provides another little disclaimer of the definition and limitations of internal control. A company's internal control over financial reporting is a process designed to provide reasonable assurance regarding the reliability of the financial statements. Because of inherent limitations, internal control over financial reporting may not prevent or detect misstatements. So this is the report of the independent registered public accounting firm. Scrolling down, we have the signature page, and here we have the Chief Executive Officer and the Chief Financial Officer taking responsibility for everything that is presented within the 10K. And lastly, here we have Tim Cook's official signature page, where he certifies that Timothy D. Cook certifies that I have reviewed the annual report on Form 10K of Apple Inc., as have we, Tim, and based on his knowledge, this report does not contain any untrue statement of material fact or omit to state of a material fact. And here we have Tim Cook's official signature as Chief Executive Officer of Apple. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. If you're interested in learning more about accounting, taxes, or becoming a CPA, visit us at breezycpa.com for courses. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.